Federal Executive Council approves various contracts to enhance development of critical infrastructure across the country.
Police confirmed death of 3 suicide bombers and 4 other persons in multiple explosions in Borno State.
House of Representatives urge federal government to revive all primary health care centers in Nigeria.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on a situation analysis of the conflict in the Northeast, plus matters arising from the Senate call for immediate resignation of the Comptroller General of Customs.
All right, I'll start off with this quote. I want to use this opportunity to commend the determination, courage, and resilience of troops of Operation Lafia Dole at finally entering and crushing the remnants of the Boko Haram insurgents at Camp Zero, which is located deep within the heart of Sambisa Forest, unquote. Now, those were the words of President Buhari in congratulating the Nigerian military for recapturing Camp Zero, which had been held by Boko Haram since 2013.
Well, Clark, that statement was made by the president on the 22nd of December last year, and it was considered a Christmas gift to Nigerians. Now, in his reaction, Commander of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Lucky Rabo, had also declared, "We have won the war." But he cautioned that there was still a lot to do to restore peace in the region. And if you recall, he also hinted at a possible infiltration into various communities and warned civilians against collusion or providing any sort of cover for the fleeing remnants of the insurgents, whom he said no longer had a place to hide.
All right, but despite losing their grounds, the insurgents have continued to carry out successful isolated attacks. Now, between December 2016 and now, there have been a considerable number of such attacks, enough to raise concern. Now, in January, a teenage suicide bomber detonated a bomb at a mosque at the University of Maiduguri, killing a professor and 3 others.
Now, in the same month, a convoy of motorists was attacked along the Maiduguri-Biu-Damboa highway. 7 passengers were killed in that incident. Now, between February 17th and 21st, Boko Haram also attacked the Nigerian Air Force helicopter, conveying personnel on a medical outreach exercise. Now, recently, Magumari town, also in Borno State, was attacked, by remnants of Boko Haram, and the attackers were said to have numbered about 300. They came, according to reports, on motorcycles, in Hilux vans, and they set ablaze a military facility, a police station, and part of the town. The attackers were, however, contained ultimately by members of the Nigerian military.
Of course, Kingsley, not without casualties. Then the army said preliminary investigation into that incident showed that the attackers of Magumeri village came from the same community and that the terrorists may be well known to the people. Now, the IDP camps have also not been left out in the attack. Now, of course, we know the recent one, a few hours ago, an unlisted IDP camp in Borno State came under attack, leaving also in its wake some casualties. Now, these are just few of the growing incidents of attacks by Boko Haram since December 2016 when they were decimated. So, how is the clearing operation by the Nigerian military faring? And what is the level of civilian collaboration and collusion with insurgents? Is Boko Haram regrouping? These are some pertinent questions we intend to discuss on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. The pleasure is always ours having you join us as usual. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak.
And I'm Kingsley Osalolo. I join my colleague Claire in also welcoming you to this edition of the program. Also on the table for discussion today, we have matters arising from the call by the Senate for the immediate resignation of the Comptroller General of Customs, as retired Colonel Hamid Ali. Now, of course, in addition to all of that, we have our regular companion segments, taking a look at the headlines in some of today's newspapers, business, sports, and all that. Of course, there was also a terror attack yesterday in London. That's the Houses of Parliament. We had an incident there. 5 persons, as at the last count, were said to have died and some 40 persons injured. In the meantime, we're going over to the newsroom. For us here now, and Lydia Bassi is our caster. Hi, Lydia.
Hello, Kingsley. Good morning and welcome to the news. The police in Maiduguri has confirmed the death of 3 suicide bombers and 4 other persons in a Wednesday early morning multiple explosions at an unregistered IDP camp in Muna General Area of Maiduguri, the Borno State capital.
This is a great challenge that is coming because spreading the shelters and IDPs across the perimeter of Maiduguri is really a threat to the security formation of the entire state.
Meanwhile, residents of Zakibiam Ukum, local government area of Benue State, are gradually coming to terms with the incident of Monday when the town came under attack from unknown gunmen, leading to the loss of several lives. Achigili Magaji, who visited the town, reports that security has been beefed up, while security agencies are on the trail of the perpetrators.
You can see that there is massive damage, both in terms of houses and all that. We'll evaluate it and see how we can come in to help the people to continue their normal life.
I don't see it as communal because nothing is in contest. But I see it as just common criminals who have come to create terror in the minds of people in this place.
Away from terror attacks, the Federal Executive Council has approved various contracts aimed at enhancing the development of critical infrastructure across Nigeria for socio-economic prosperity. These are in the areas of roads, railways, and power sectors as essential arteries for development. Minister of Power, Works and Housing Babatunde Fashola and his FCT counterpart, Mohammed Musa Bello, gave details on the approvals at a media briefing after the council's meeting.
It's a program that comprises many PEP policy actions, operational and financial interventions that need to be carried out by government to improve transparency, service delivery, in order to create a more viable power sector that is private sector run.
That 1B is about 27 kilometers and is going to start from Ring Road 1 in the city center, passing through Area 10, through Wuse Market, Bega Junction, Jabi Motor Park, through the Life Camp to terminate at the Gwagwa station. Already, as you know, Lot 3 has already been completed. We also gave approval today for the rolling stocks. That's the coaches that will be used on the system. 12 sets will be procured to be used on that line. But we have realized the need to expand the rail from Bazango station right into Kubwa to go to the station at Kubwa. That way, the whole intention is for it to be able to carry the traffic that comes into Abuja from the Kubwa axis. That extension is 5.7 kilometers, and we got council approval for today.
In another development, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, headed by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, have met in Abuja to assess the level of performance of its 60-day National Action Plan.
Taking stock, we've scoped a number of reforms that need to be done in the quick, short term to make sure that Nigerian businesses are more comfortable. We're trying to save on cost and time and amount of documentation. We've also done quite a bit of work on transparency, websites of different MDAs to make sure that the processes, the procedures, the cost, and the people responsible are clearly laid out in a transparent manner.
It's very important for the efficiency of the immigration department. Is also very important in terms of security.
Those who are supposed to be paying tax, only 10% are paying tax. And therefore now we have increased our net, and all those who are supposed to pay tax must pay tax.
The House of Representatives has implored the federal government to revive all the primary health care centers in Nigeria. This is one of the resolutions by the legislators at Wednesday's plenary.
Those that are there, but they have not been put to use, especially those constructed by the MDTs.
The primary health care centers are the only health centers closest to the people.
We have already made provisions for this in the 2017 budget, and each and every one of us will see before the end of this budget year that primary health centers in our local government areas, in our various constituencies, are going to be touched.
Total review of Nigeria's constitution will serve as a bedrock to achieving change that will affect other sectors, including the electoral system. This formed part of submissions by participants, among whom are governors of Ogun, Lagos, Ondo, Osun, and Ekiti states, as the Constitution and Electoral Reform Committee concludes its zonal public hearing in Abuja for the Southwest Zone.
I'd like to dispel the negative notion that we have had too many electoral reforms and the government has not been implementing. Yes, to a very large extent, but this committee is charged with the responsibility of harmonizing all those electoral reform reports.
Truly, I agree that yes, we should look into the way we are as a nation. Indeed, a system that doesn't reward us equally, a system that you need to know Mr. A or Mr. B or where you come from, will not be a good system. But I've always argued that whatever we are doing, we should make sure that something is sacrosanct, and that is the indivisibility of this nation.
2 weeks after the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport was closed for reconstruction work on the runway, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says flight operations at the Kaduna Airport serving as alternative has so far been successful. The minister stated this in Kaduna.
We have done all that ought to be done within a very short time. There's no way you can replicate Abuja and Kaduna within the time frame. But if the objective is to ensure seamless, operation, if the objective is to ensure, minimum disruption to services, minimum disruption, minimum inconvenience, absolute, safety and security, I do not think we can do more than what we have done.
And that wraps up the news at this hour. The program continues with Claire and Kingsley after this break. Good morning.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
To the outer framers, the hat tippers, the fringe goers, you don't need to hide anymore. Try Dettol Even Tone. It cleans and helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes caused by oil, dirt, and germs, giving your skin a healthy feel for an even better you. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 Naira only.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe. next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Unlike before, this road is nowhere to be, no area to be found. But today, people move freely, the vehicle moves freely, and the roundabout is a standard one.
The Imo Rescue Mission. Imo must be better.
All right, thank you for joining us. If you have just tuned in to the NTA, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and thank you for being there for us. Now, time, of course, to take business and monies that would have been spent by government agencies in developing individual accounting solution software can now be saved, and that's following the introduction of the One Book software. You want to know what this is all about? Let's join Kulu Mohammed on Business News.
As part of ongoing measures to improve public financial management across all levels of government, the federal government has developed an IPSAS-compliant accounting software suite, One Book, aimed at enhancing efficiency, accountability, and transparency. The One Book suite offers a complete solution that allows for standardization and seamless exchange of information across all tiers of government by providing a unified accounting and reporting solution across key areas, namely government expenditure, financial, treasury, and receipts management. The adoption of the platform, as it ensures the application of controls and standards across spending agencies for recording, processing, and releasing payments. Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, while launching the software in Abuja, said it became imperative following the conversion of the financial system of the federal government from the cash to accrual accounting system, adding that the software will help restore confidence in the public financial management system.
For the public sector, so it's everything from budgeting, warrant issuance, payments, reconciliations and reports, and it's going to save our state governments a lot of money in developing that they would otherwise have spent developing individual solutions.
She said the software will be made available to all states and local governments to support their accounting and reporting processes. States that are yet to convert to IPSAS accrual accounting will be able to use this suite as it guarantees IPSAS accrual compliance. The Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, who also spoke at the event, said the software was a solution to all the accounting problems being faced in the public sector.
A lot in terms of usage and application of this new innovation and software. And this can tell you the capacity of ICT in modern day finances.
Introduction and compliance with IPSAS also formed part of the conditions included in the Fiscal Sustainability Plan for the state government. One Book software captures data once, thereby eliminating redundant data processing, and also provides a single source of truth on government budget, appropriation, allocation, releases, obligations, and expenditure. The advanced software is an initiative of the federal government through the Ministry of Finance. Meanwhile, 27 ships laden with petroleum products, food items, and other goods are expected to arrive in Apapa and Tinkan Island ports in Lagos from March 22nd to April the 4th. The Nigerian Ports Authority, NPA, disclosed this in its publication, Shipping Position, on Wednesday in Lagos. NPA said that the 27 ships contain bulk wheat, general cargo, steel products, diesel, crude palm oil, soya, bulk corn, base oil, frozen fish, petrol, empty containers, and containers laden with goods. The document noted that 8 other ships had already arrived in the ports waiting to berth with bulk fertilizer, empty containers, crude palm oil, diesel, and petrol. 15 other ships are reported to have discharged empty containers, bulk wheat, containers, frozen fish, bulk gypsum, aviation fuel, bulk fertilizer, bulk sugar, containers, and petrol. And the equities market closed in the red, shedding 0.07%. Up ahead is a graphic summary of the latest closing figures. That's business news at this hour. I am Kolo Muhammad.
Well, thank you very much there, Kolo Mohammed, for the business package, and good morning, Nigeria. Next for us now is a look at the headlines on the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
Always my pleasure to welcome Bayo Atoyebe in the studio to do, of course, what he knows how to do best. Bayo, good morning and welcome once again.
Good morning, Claire, and thank you. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, pleasure to have you again. Let's begin with the Nigerian pilot. The latest story has the headline, Body of Dr. Orwell Orji found. Details of that story can be found on page 6. Body of Dr. Orwell Orji found. And also there on the front page, we have the headlines just below the nameplate, SEC to reduce primary equity and fixed income costs, and reps to probe NBC and others over harmful drinks. NBC stands for the Nigerian Bottling Company. And below the photograph on the front page, you have Plateau Commissioner slumps, dies while jogging with governor. Plateau Commissioner slumps and dies while jogging with governor. That's on page 9. And Senate okays $500 million Eurobond to finance 2016 budget. And operators lose as dollar falls to 400 naira at parallel market. And 1.8 billion people drink contaminated water. That's according to UNICEF. And on page 7 still, why I can't join APC, according to Fayoshe.
All right, New Telegraph leads with the report. Customs CG must resign. Senate tells Buhari. Now declares Hamid Ali unfit to hold public office. And as you can see there, SGF shuns senators. Goes to court over invitation. That's those are the trending stories now. Of course, they are headline stories on almost all the papers. But let's again quickly look at the trending stories just a little below the picture insert there. DSS arrests 20 Boko Haram suspects in Ekiti. Others. Suspected abductors of German archaeologist held, and details of that is on page 3. Now the trending stories just a little below the nameplate. Commissioner, Kingsley read this just a while ago, slums, dies while jogging in Plateau 34. That's where you can find the details of that report. And Sokoto releases 212 million naira for payment of foreign scholarship. Again, it's also on page 34. And PDP crisis, Dixon makes U-turn, submits report to McAfee. It's on page 2. Unpaid salaries, protesting people's paralyzed activities in Taraba. There you can see a picture story. It's quite further of pupils, protesting pupils. Bayo.
Yeah. Students are protesting.
No, these are primary schools.
Primary school
Yes.
pupils protesting. It's very strange.
Oh my goodness.
Freedom of expression is getting to the primary school. Well, let's look at the stories you have raised. The Plateau people are in the second day of mourning following the death of the Commissioner for Housing and Urban Development. He was jogging along with the governor in a fortnightly keep fit exercise. He slumped, and unfortunately, when he was taken to the hospital, he gave up the ghost. Our heart goes out to the people of Plateau State. In the same vein, 22 persons had died in an auto crash in a village called Giron Masa. It was a bus that was trying to avoid a pothole. Unfortunately, the bus hit a motorcyclist who died instantly. The bus somersaulted, and unfortunately, the bus was carrying in it a jerry can of petrol. It ignited and caught fire, and 22 persons have died. Meanwhile, the body of Dr. Orwell Oji has been recovered. The family and the driver have identified him. The Commissioner of Police for Lagos State, Fatai Ewusheni, has confirmed this. He, however, said that the report about the lady who had jumped into the canal at Maza had not been confirmed. They've made all efforts to try and trace him, but there was no news about that. Talking about the Senate has passed a resolution asking President Muhammadu Buhari to sack Controller General of Customs, Colonel Ahmed Ali. The Senate resolved that he is unfit to hold public office when the CGA did not appear before the Senate dressed in uniform. The CGS cited a court order making the subject of appearing sub judice. The Senate also resolved to write to President Muhammadu Buhari to caution the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami to respect the principle of separation of powers. The Senate described his letter to the Senate enjoining the Senate to put on hold the summoning of CGS as a matter of disrespect to the Senate. Meanwhile, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation also summoned to appear before an ad hoc committee panel of the Senate says he is constrained from appearing today because of a court case on the same subject for which he has been summoned. The panel summoned the SGF over an alleged fraud in the award of contract relating in the presidential initiative on the Northeast. It was said that a sum of 270 million was expended for cutting grass. The SGF said he can't appear because he has challenged the invitation in court. Meanwhile, Lagos lawyer Femi Falana has accused the Nigerian Senate of embarking on a vengeance mission against the Controller General of Customs. He says that the Senate was said to have imported a bulletproof SUV which was impounded by the customs in doing their duty. This, he says, is the hidden reason behind the summoning of the CGS. However, a spokesman for the Senate President, Yusuf Olaniyono, says that a supplier was engaged by the Senate to supply a vehicle. While transporting the vehicle between Lagos and Abuja, it was impounded by the custom. Therefore, it is an issue between the supplier and the custom, as the Senate has not taken delivery of the case. Lawyer Falana says that it is not a denial of a criminal allegation, but an attempt to pull wool over the eyes of Nigerians. Okay, so it's been back and forth with the Senate.
But other Nigerians have also complained about the plan by the customs, to impose levies or appropriate duties as a target on vehicles that were imported, some time back. But customs has already suspended.
Yes, the Senate has also advised that it should be suspended. The irony here is this: the CGS or the customs is saying it's implementing the law, or what it is doing within the ambit of the law, and the lawmakers are saying stop this.
Well, it's how is the interpretation you give to the law, which was a subject that we took on this program. And then the other sad incident of the commissioner in Plateau who was jogging along with the governor and then slumped. It's important for you to know your health status before you embark on vigorous exercises. Yes, it's very important. It's not sufficient. We're all not, that strong, to be on the track. Say that one, if it's walking that is best for you, you undertake walking. May so rest in peace. Let's take a look at the front page of the Authority newspaper. Above the nameplate of the Authority, reps probe Coca-Cola over dangerous acid in Fanta and Sprite. That's on page 4. And Shiites storm Abuja, demand Zakzaki's release. And communicable diseases, Nasarawa government plans special diagnostic center. Details of that story can be found on page 4. Lead story with Ekika, second Niger Bridge. FEC, Federal Executive Council, approves Onitsha Asaba access roads and okays 121.5 billion naira for roads and Abuja infrastructure. And then the photograph there shows the president and the vice president at yesterday's council meeting. 4 killed and 20 injured in London terror attack. Of course, that's on the front page of the authority. Latest update in the case that actually 5 persons have not been confirmed dead from that incident.
Yeah, Kingsley, the other paper I have is Daily Trust. It practically carries all the stories that we have talked about. But I'm really worried and concerned about this story about the peoples, you understand, who took to the streets, Bayo. And it's on the inside page of New Telegraph 34. I'll just write it to read. It says, pupils of public primary school in Taraba State who were said to have trooped to the street as early as 7 a.m., barricaded all major roads in Jalingo, and thereby obstructing free vehicular movements within the metropolis for over 7 hours. The aggrieved pupils blocked the entrance of the government house and caused gridlock at Union Bank and, of course, other areas within the state capital. I'm wondering, what do the teachers want to achieve? What are we trying to, impact in this century? If you take a look at the picture, if you can get the picture, look at the pupils. They apparently don't even understand why they are there.
Well, it's exploitation of peoples.
Exactly.
Maybe there is a grievance the teachers have, and because it's not stated there what actually the grievance is and what they are protesting about.
Salary
of their teachers.
Yes.
So it's not far-fetched. Well, should salaries of teachers not be paid? It should be paid.
The question
and
is,
if it is not paid, people should be so exploited and they are on the street to go and demonstrate.
Right. They've been apparently procured.
Yes.
For this kind of demonstration. That
process itself is exploitation of the children, which is very unnecessary. Meanwhile, President Muhammad Buhari has joined all world leaders in condemning the terror attack on the Parliament building in London, Westminster, yesterday. President Muhammad Buhari said that to Prime Minister Theresa May that people of Nigeria stand with the people of Britain, and it says terror attack anywhere in the world is condemnable. We must join hands to defeat all people who perpetrate instances of terror. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, was actually bundled in the car and taken away from the scene when a car moved away and mowed down about dozens of pedestrians. An assailant came from the car and reportedly shot into the air and stabbed a policeman before he was eventually gunned down. Meanwhile, like you read earlier on Kingsley, the security or DSS have arrested a commander, Nasiru Sani, who escaped from Bauchi prison 10 years ago. By October this year, it will be 7 years ago when he escaped. He was arrested, incidentally, on the Ahmadu Bello Way in Bauchi, where he escaped 10 years ago. Also in Ado Ekiti, Adenoye Abdusalam, an alleged kingpin of Boko Haram, was also arrested. He was found with an AK-47. He was said to be planning a hijack to get ransom to continue to fund the activities.
All right, Bayo, thanks a lot. There have been, some arrests as well of some kidnapped kingpins. There's one picked up somewhere in Rivers. His nickname is Manslaughter. So it's been a kidnapped kingpin in that part of the country. If you recall, a few weeks ago, the police also brought down
Vampire.
All right, Bayo Atoebe, thank you for being with us today. We'll see you again tomorrow for the newspaper review segment. We'll take a short break now.
Thank you.
When we return, of course, we'll be dealing with the resurgence of the conflict in the Northeast and what the military authorities are doing about it.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. But it's also let the change begin from within. Look at you, Ogerola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with
When Kayode Kukoyi was a year old, he contracted the polio virus, which attacked his nervous system, leading to irreversible paralysis. Now a grown man, husband and father of 3, he's struggling to make ends meet as a keke napep driver.
Every day, I risk my life for my family so that they can live better. My life is worth 2,000 naira a day.
NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Television Authority, specializes in creating comfort in all areas of life, such as real estate investments, that is, land, houses, and office spaces, mass leasing, savings and loan scheme, household items and car loans, and so much more. Other information and entertainment services include Property in Style, a TV program that airs on the network service of the NTA, and also Property Connect, a nationwide magazine. Our priority is to bridge poverty gaps and sustain quality welfare of our clients. Partner with us and watch us help you grow. Pay us a visit today at the NTA headquarters permanent site, Area 11 Garki, Abuja, or our Lagos office at number 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. For more information, visit our website on www.ntaproperties.com.ng, or you can email us on ntap2000@yahoo.com. Call us on 080-2316-3474 or 080-6939-5185 or 070-3189-0555. NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, the much needed help at your doorstep.
Right, that time that you're waiting for, the time to kickstart our conversation, and we're looking at Boko Haram. We're visiting Boko Haram and, of course, its operations. Now, despite losing, of course, Camp Zero, which has been its stronghold since 2013, the insurgents, Boko Haram, have continued to carry out, attacks in, of course, Maiduguri and other areas in Borno, of course, leaving in its way casualties and destructions. Now, of course, this has again led to renewed fear and concern about whether Boko Haram is regrouping, and that's, of course, the basis for our discussion this morning. But let's listen into a backgrounder by Timothy Yusuf.
8 years down the line, the crisis in the northeast shows no sign of abating and is adding to the long history of marginalization and chronic underdevelopment, as well as a higher rate of poverty, illiteracy and unemployment. Since the start of the conflict in 2009, statistics from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reveal that more than 20,000 people have been killed, countless women and girls abducted, and children drafted as suicide bombers into Boko Haram. It adds that up to 2.1 million people fled their homes at the height of the conflict, more than 1.8 million of whom are currently internally displaced, with more than 0.2 million in neighboring countries of Cameroon, Chad and Niger. In the 3 most affected states of Adamawa, Borno and Yobe, government forces are recapturing territory from Boko Haram. But then, the security situation in the northeast still remains fragile.
This is a great challenge that is coming.
Many attributed this to the frequent bombings being recorded, especially in Borno State. Those who know say over 80% of Borno State is still considered high or very high risk as the security situation improves. However, new areas, according to many, are becoming accessible, although with new dimensions of need and emerging hope. Most asked questions by concerned Nigerians, therefore, are whether or not the fight against insurgency is being relaxed going by the technical degrading of the menace. Why the frequent bombing or suicide killing going on regularly? Is the armed forces deploying new strategies to confronting the insurgents headlong? All these questions will be begging for answers shortly on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, we have joining us to discuss the issues pertaining to the resurgence of terror attacks, particularly in Borno. We have our guest at the Maiduguri Network Center of Nigerian Television Authority, and he's the theater commander of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Lucky Rabo. General Rabo, a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, how do we situate the upsurge, particularly in recent weeks, in attacks by remnants of Boko Haram, who by last December, had been significantly decimated?
Well, thank you very much for that question. There's no doubt the attacks that have been reported, of course, that have also occurred, there's every concern by well-meaning Nigerians regarding why these attacks and what actually is responsible. I share those concerns with all those who truly care. Well, what I can tell you with respect to these attacks is that they are actually not beyond what we envisaged, having routed them from Sambisa and, of course, from various other locations. For us, Operation Lafia Dole, we cannot, be everywhere. And, of course, that, of course, does not justify, these attacks. But all I can tell you, just the reason why I'm here, is to give assurance to everyone that Boko Haram stands defeated, and the attacks that they now find mostly with suicide bombers is something that we are working assiduously with other stakeholders to ensuring that that menace is brought to an end.
Major General Rabo, thank you once again for joining us. I do recall that, after the Nigerian military recaptured, of course, Camp Zero, you did say that, of course, they were going to embark on, clearing operations and, of course, efforts to, stop, the insurgents from re-entering and all that. I'd like to ask you, between then and now, we've seen attacks, especially along routes like Maiduguri, Biu, and, Damboa. There have also been attacks along Goza. We've seen villages like Musa, Askira, and Uba, and so many others. So how has the clearing operation fared so far? You want to tell us?
Thank you very much, Claire. One thing one must understand with respect to this operation is that we're not dealing with communities that you could say they are well developed. We're not dealing with areas where there are roads. We're talking about some isolated villages and hamlets, farm settlements. When you hear of some of these attacks, besides the one that happened in Magumeri, the way they sound is different from what actually is on ground. And I think that, and this is where I actually, do not agree with your background report, where, his opening statement, gives the impression that the war does not have any sign of abating. And I think that that's not correct. I think that Abuja and Lagos, concerned stakeholders, may need to visit more these areas to be able to understand the realities on ground. But to say because there was an isolated attack, then that's a resurgence, that's not the true representation. But of course, for us, we do not want to see any of these attacks, and we're working towards them. But whenever they occur, to assume that that is an indication of resurgence, in my view, that is misplaced. But again, we will continue to work on the issues and ensure that we do not have these attacks repeating themselves frequently.
With regards to the clearing operation, we'd just like to, what progress, has been made in terms of securing, some of those areas that are vulnerable to attack?
Now, what I can tell you is this. When you say securing, what kind of assurance do I need to give other than that villages and towns that were liberated, those in the various IDP camps are returning to them. Life is returning in greater number to these villages. And then we are going further into the forest and isolated towns and villages to ensure that, where Boko Haram have found a safe haven in the past, they are routed from those locations. What more assurance do I need to give than to say that the economic activities are beginning to thrive along not just the major roads, but even in major city centers, towns, villages? I mean, these are, like I said, the only conviction that I can give to those who still doubt is for them to come down here and see. Yes, of course, just like Kingsley mentioned, and of course we are well aware of the incident that happened in London. Does that mean that London is not safe, that we are no longer going to go there? No. That you have the kind of issue that happened in Paris, does that imply that the whole of France is under siege? No. These are, some of the manifestations that certainly will be with us for a long time to come, given the background that has led to this insurgency and terrorism that were found. But again, I must add here that it's not all about military. It's having to engage other stakeholders. In your report, you did quoted the statistics that OCHA, that the UN has provided. Are we operating under a failed arrangement? So is that where we should begin to rely? I mean, is that organization that we should rely on for data that has to do with us as a nation? You are talking about issues that have to be bringing understanding to bear with respect to what we're doing. National Orientation Agency. Don't you think that they also need to come on board? I mean, I'm saying that sometimes where the interest is misplaced, some persons may want to go to some other quarters to relaunch certain statistics which may not actually be the true reflection of what's on ground. I think that for us to be able to make progress, everyone needs to be engaged constructively so that we will make significant progress, not in the light of having to make assumptions as to what is responsible or what is not responsible for the situation that we find ourselves.
All right, General Rabo, thank you very much. Just to explore further angles to this issue, in December last year, when Camp Zero was vanquished, the presumption was that the last stronghold or the last redoubt of Boko Haram had been, as it were, brought down, and therefore they will have no place for encampment. Now, some reports in recent times have also tended to suggest that the sporadic attacks that we have seen, whether on IDP camps or, getting some of the attackers hit villages, that the attackers have tended to come in motorcades, which would suggest, according to some analysts, that perhaps, yes, probably there are no camps immediately identifiable where you would say this is where Boko Haram has regrouped. Would that indicate, for instance, that perhaps they are now probably embedded amongst the civil population, and does that complicate your mop-up operations in terms of seeking to fish out the remnants of the terrorists and then put them out of business?
Well, Kingsley, you're partly right. What we need to understand is that this war is asymmetric in nature, and what that implies is that there are no defined enemies. When you come to, say, Borno State, for example, when you see the movement on the roads, some of which we try to give some form of escort, and then you see the quantum of traffic, you begin to ask yourself, who are these people? Where are they going to? What are they carrying? Well, we can only, assume that a good number of them are law-abiding and they're going about their legitimate duties. But of course, we also know that in the course of transporting some of these logistics, some get into the wrong hands. And so when reports are given to indicate that, say, Boko Haram are coming in motorcades, they are coming with so many motorcycles, well, yes, of course, they may come in their numbers, but not, of course, the strength that are being reported. Because I ask, how can, say, the attack in Magumeri, you say there are about 300. Who was there to count them? Who was there to say they actually came in 30 Hilux vehicles? 130 Hilux vehicles are moving in the bush. It's not a child's play. But of course, these are situations when even if it's only one vehicle, for as long as it's a state of insecurity, anybody can give reasons as to what led to it and what did not. But for me, I like to assure every Nigerian, and especially those here in the Northeast, that the operation is on course. We by the day we are reducing the threats, and I think that others can only join hands in giving us relevant information, critical information that will be of help. Of course, some of these insurgents have embedded in the various communities, especially those communities that are a little bit removed from city centers, from towns where one can actually have an oversight on them. But I believe that going forward, the kind of things we're doing now, that the kind of engagement we're having will yield positive results, and on a daily basis we'll continue to reduce their number.
Major General Rabo, you just, I'm wondering if you just, disclaimed the fact that a report about the number of the terrorists invaded Magumeri, was 30 or 300, I beg your pardon. But also, reports quotes an eyewitness, to that incident, and saying that when the attackers came, of course, the soldiers on duty tried to engage them, but were overpowered, and so they fled. My question is, should we, at this point in time, be talking about soldiers fleeing because they were ill-equipped?
Okay, Claire, I do not think I need to, join issues with whoever made such claims. I was in Magumeri the following day after the incident happened in the evening on Thursday, and by Friday I was there, and to see what happened. And the location in itself, the report said that the military base was burnt. That is true, and the police station too partly was burnt. Yes, but there was no other structure in the village that was burnt. Now, it's not for me to begin to defend our actions. That is not it. But I can only say that we have taken measures to ensure that such does not happen again. I'm not here to say that we do not have challenge. Of course, there are challenges, but I'm not going to be stopped by any challenge. That's why I'm here, because there is a challenge. That's why I'm here. That's why we are here, to address challenges. I stand to solve problems. I do not stand to begin to grovel over challenges that we may have. That's not it. I'm here to solve problems. So the assurance I'm giving is that we will do what is necessary to ensure that problems are solved.
Well, General Rabo, let's still pursue the angle. How much cooperation are you getting from the civil population? Has there been a let-up, on the assumption that, after all, Boko Haram has been significantly wiped out, so perhaps now, it's back to normal? And does that assumption also apply to the kind of logistic support you are getting from headquarters, if you need to speak on that?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. The cooperation from the populace has been improving. In fact, I must say that the successes that were recorded is attributable to the cooperation that we've gotten from the populace. On a daily basis, it's increasing. But of course, there are still some elements who still believe that they want to profit from what is happening. Otherwise, how do the Boko Haram terrorists get their logistics? But then those are isolated cases. On a general note, I would say that it's been quite a very healthy relationship that we're having with both the government and the people. And of course, there are other stakeholders, government stakeholders, that have also been very helpful in ensuring that we get the relevant information that we require. Now, with respect to logistics from the headquarters, of course, we cannot exist without the support from higher headquarters. And I think it's been very formidable, and it's on the increase on a daily basis. But of course, you must understand that where you had over 60% or 70% of the landmass of, say, Borno State, for example, that were under the control of Boko Haram in the time past. And now we have, recovered these territories. Of course, you know that the logistic implication is that there will be a quantum leap in terms of the requirements. But then those are some of the assessments that have been made, and of course, efforts are being made to ensure that if there's any gap that exists, that are closed up. But then it does not imply that we're not getting enough logistics. No, that's not true at all. It's been quite heartwarming to say that the operation is in top form. Every officer and soldier, they are in top form, even though, of course, there have been promises from the Chief of Army Staff that will do some form of scale down, especially for the troops who have been here for a relatively long time, for them to go back to join with their families. That, of course, will embark on a very short while. But, of course, to say that the operation is on good course.
Major General Rabo, just before we let you go, in a statement released by the Army spokesperson with regards to the incident at Magumeri, he said in part that there seems to be an unholy alliance between the terrorists and the villagers. So how are you dealing with that issue?
Well, like I said earlier on, if we do not have some individuals, of course isolated, who are still giving some form of support to the Boko Haram terrorists, we wouldn't have them perpetrating the evil they are doing. So I think it's from that perspective that General SK Usman made that publication. But let me say that we on ground here, we are having a lot of support from the government and the people. But of course, it will be something that we want, to increase beyond what it is now. It's been quite heartwarming, no doubt. But of course, we wouldn't want any individual whatsoever from any of the communities to have anything to do with Boko Haram terrorists. And that is why we believe that engaging the various stakeholders to be able to sustain the narrative, which is that Boko Haram is evil, and then that nobody whatsoever, any right-thinking Nigerian or citizen of this nation should have anything to do with that ignoble group. That is the narrative we would like, to be sustained and across board, both from the traditional rulers, from the government agencies, from other stakeholders, and even from our international partners. Once we have this understanding and we work to ensure that we have a common enemy, then of course we'll be making serious progress, and we'll be seeing a total end to the madness called Boko Haram terrorism and insurgency.
Major General, we've got quite a number of tweets. We'd just like you to listen into some of them just before we let you go. You may wish to also react to a number of them that have come in. Kesley, you want to start?
All right, we have this reaction from Kiari Mshela. It says, the war against Boko Haram is now about winning the hearts and minds of the people of Borno. There's massive sabotage going on in the northeast. And
Dele Jack Solomon tweets, moderators, Nigerians shouldn't think that the security operatives can completely exterminate the Boko Haram. They will fight back.
And then we have this from Engineer Abdullahi. It says, we learned that the military refused to act on intelligence reports, and that was what caused the attack at Magumeri.
And Law Alpha C tweets, the people where terrorist attacks occur more should be told the true position of things, so they do not relax, believing it's all over.
Cecilia Okoroma tweets, General Rabo, you are my hero. Now, governors must ensure there's a mechanism for identifying people at IDP camps that are breeding grounds for terrorists.
And Dayo Isaac Ojediron tweets, with the recent happenings, it's obvious that the war is not over yet. Let the Nigerian military not relax or celebrate too soon. God bless them.
And a tweet from Alhaji Ishaq Abdul Hamid. A salute to General Irabo and his men. Now, we remain appreciative of your efforts to keep the Northeast and indeed Nigeria safe.
And Ahmed tweets, Gambo Ibrahim tweets, no doubt the officers are doing a great job, but they still need to go in deep to get their sponsors and bring them to book.
Festus Akimboyewa has this tweet. It says, good morning to General Rabo. The fact that mass violence has stopped and casualties from any attack are few indicate that Nigeria is winning. All right, now those are some of the tweets that we can take. In the meantime, General, you wish to respond to any of the issues raised, but of course, the appreciation by Nigerians or the tweeters showing that they indeed appreciate the sacrifice that you and your men and indeed other officers and men of the Nigerian military are making with regard to the containment of Boko Haram elements. One specific one, of course, relates to the alleged non-action on otherwise actionable intelligence.
Well, thank you very much, and let me perhaps use this opportunity to thank every Nigerian who have actually, supported us either by, very positive commentaries that they have made, or by way of advice in one way or the other. We stand, we remain very grateful, and we are motivated by such comments and that kind of support. Now, the issue of intelligence, there is no sane organization, and of course, if I speak specifically for Operation Lafia Dole, it would be inappropriate to for anyone to say that we do not use actionable intelligence that we get. Of course, there are instances where the intelligence information may not come at the time and affording the time for you to be able to react appropriately. But again, there are also times where there are challenges which of course we're looking at comprehensively and ensuring that such lapses do not reoccur. But on a general note, every information that we get, we utilize, and of course that's what has led us into making the kind of success that we have achieved. But are there times where, of course, there have been challenges? Of course there were. And those challenges, we have taken measures to ensure that they do not repeat themselves. But let me say that generally, I stand on the proclamation which I made in the time past, and that is that we have won the war, we need to win the peace. It's a collective responsibility. Every of the stakeholders need to come on board. I know that there are some persons who think that they need to be prompt before they can take action. Issues of adjudication of those that are in our detention facilities, it's very critical that we begin to work on them. And other measures which I believe that when they are taken, they will impact significantly on the overall disposition of this threat, as it were. For me, we are making progress, and I understand that we have won the war and we need to win the peace.
Indeed, Major General Rabo, those words still reverberate, and our prayers are with for you and your men, and would like to sincerely appreciate you for finding time to join us from our Maiduguri Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. We also have, of course, the Nigerian Air Force, which has also been making a lot of onslaught on the terrorists in the fight against insurgency, of course, in the Northeast. Now, we have here with us the spokesperson of the Nigerian Air Force, Group Captain Ayodele Famuyiwa. Group Captain Famuyiwa, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, Group Captain Famuyiwa, of course, you have the benefit of listening to the comments made by the Theatre Commander, Operation Lafayette Adole General Lucky Rabo. Now, let's begin by taking a look at inter-service cooperation. I mean, modern warfare factors in the role of the Air Force, and there were reports of several sorties that were made before Boko Haram, got flushed out of Camp Zero. Where do we stand 3 months on?
I want to say there's been a lot of progress made after the fall of Camp Zero. At the onset of this year, what the Nigerian Air Force did was to review its performance in the previous year. And one thing that came out clearly was the need for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance activities to be intensified, because like the Charter Commander said, you can't rule out the fact that the insurgents have been widely dispersed, and there's a tendency for them to want to regroup if they must make any meaningful progress. That's the Nigerian Air Force is aware, and that's why we have intensified our area patrol activities to make sure that we deny them the opportunity to regroup in order not to be able to carry out any attack on nearby communities or the surface forces themselves, talking about the Army and some other surface forces operating within the theater of operation, such that their clearance operation will not be obstructed. In terms of cooperation between the security agencies, there has been lots of cooperation because without them working in synergy, the progress that has been made wouldn't have been possible. The Nigerian Air Force working with the surface forces, we've been able to provide a lot of support operations to them. For example, for the surface forces, for them to be able to operate effectively, there's the need for the Air Force to be able to go ahead of them, and that we've been doing. The theater of operation we're talking about is a very large expanse of land. You're talking about over 60,000 square kilometers. And so the man on the ground is going to be at a disadvantage. How much can you see standing on the ground? So that's why most of the time before the land operations are commenced, you have the ISR platforms that are ahead, looking along the axis of advancement of the troops to ensure that those places are cleared. The surface forces do not run into ambushes. And so sometimes you are made to conduct interdictions where you employ the combat platform to be able to strike out a number of those military targets, and then the surface forces just come in and just consolidate on the gain of the air effort. So I must say that there's been a lot of cooperation, especially between the Nigerian Air Force and
I like to ask how regularly you do fly, those surface areas. And I ask this question because, sometime in February, your Mi-17, air helicopter was attacked. Of course, fortunately, there were no casualties. And how is it that whether 30, the number doesn't matter anywhere, but how is it that the insurgents are able to move freely in and out of some of these areas in Maiduguri without, the Air Force noticing or seeing them?
Just like General Rabo said, I don't want to agree with with the observation that they suggest him move freely. That can't be right. And why I'm saying this is that if you look at what obtained in the past, where there was massive attack on communities, that has subsided greatly. And so the notion that maybe insurgency move around, it can't be right. But again, we cannot rule out the fact that the aim of this operation, we must note, is not to exterminate or annihilate people. These, we want to believe, are Nigerians. And so it's difficult, like the general said, when you have an asymmetric warfare, it's difficult to define the enemy. How am I sure that even those of you that are here with me, you're not terrorists? So these are issues that...
I'm not a terrorist.
I'm not saying you are. But the thing is...
Are you suggesting that I am?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, on a lighter note, in a way, people may not be actively involved in the insurgents activity, but somehow you find indirectly, again, you could find people that are supporting the insurgents.
We have seen them in Kogi State, for instance.
Exactly. So it's actually difficult for you to look at someone and say, this is a terrorist. And that's where, when we talk about this counter-insurgency operation being a collective responsibility, the whole essence, the idea is to say that everyone needs to be involved in this war. The security agencies need information, timely information, accurate information that is going to allow us to be able to nip these challenges at the bud. So at this point, I think Nigerians need to really appreciate what the military has been doing. And I must say that we've been seeing signs that people are appreciative of that. But again, there is the need for confidence building, for them to know that when you give this information to the military, you can be sure that it's going to be acted upon. I've been with some journalists where people say that sometimes the fear is that when you give information to the security agencies, that the chances that you're going to be attacked or betrayed by these terrorists. So at this point, what we really need is to be able to build that confidence for people to know that when they bring this information, they can be sure that they're going to be protected and that the security agencies are going to be acting on that to make sure that they are able to checkmate the activities of the so-called insurgents.
One critical element in the effort to win the peace after winning the war has to do with winning hearts and minds. And indeed, the Air Force helicopter that was attacked was on a mission in this respect. Well, so how well is the Nigerian Air Force still proceeding with some of the aspects of seeking to win hearts and minds?
Obviously, we are not deterred by some of these attempts by the insurgents to maybe obstruct some of those humanitarian activities. If you look at this particular incident that you mentioned, we were out for a medical outreach program in Goza, and it was en route that the helicopter was fired at. Yeah, we should expect that, because if you're doing something like that, you should expect that the insurgents may want to obstruct what you're doing. But that is not going to deter us. And that is exactly what we're getting from the Nigerian Air Force. For us to be able to really even get some of this information that we're talking about that is going to enable us effectively prosecute this campaign, you need to reach out to the people. And that has been the mindset of the Nigerian Air Force leadership, ensuring that you bring these people together. Again, we need to show these people that beyond the bombs, beyond the military activities, that our goal is to make sure that as Nigerians that they are comfortable. Our goal is to make sure that we are able to overcome the challenges. We feel their pain, and we know exactly what it is for the means of livelihood of these people to have been disrupted by these insurgent activities. And that is the whole essence of the humanitarian activities, to bring succor to the people. So we've been doing a lot of humanitarian activities, not only in Goza. There is a medical outreach program in other aspects, in other areas within the Northeast, even outside the Northeast, which the Nigerian Air Force has been involved. And so talking about the Goza attack, even that particular helicopter that was involved, the Mi-17, still proceeded on the mission, took the people for the outreach program, and still recovered them back to Maiduguri. So it has not been a deterrence to us in any way.
Yeah, there was the incident, unfortunate incident of, shall we say, friendly fire, where, a camp otherwise was mistaken, for an IDP camp was mistaken for Boko Haram enclave. But now there was some promise to follow up, with the medical attention to the survivors of that incident. What is the situation, if you have any update on that?
Yeah, there is update. First and foremost, I must say that that is one incident that is quite unfortunate. If you look at how long the Nigerian Air Force has been operating, along with the other security forces, for about 8 years now, this is the first time that we're having such an unfortunate incident. But it's pleasing also to note that the Nigerian Air Force is a responsible and irresponsible organization. The hallmark of leadership, I think, it's what has been exhibited by the administration, current administration of the Nigerian Air Force, for an organization to come up to say, we own up to our responsibility, that this, yes, we know happened, but that there are sufficient efforts to make sure that that does not repeat itself. And that was the essence of the board that was set up. Look at what happened, what are the immediate and remote causes, how do we ensure that we do not allow a recurrence of that. The update to that is that the board has submitted its reports to the Air Force Authority, and Nigerians can be sure that this is not something that can be swept under the ground. And the whole essence is to make sure that the Air Force take a position, and that is made known to Nigerians.
All right. Now, my final question to you is, what is the capacity of the Nigerian Air Force to carry out effective surveillance of these areas?
That is not in doubt. Our ability to effectively police the theater of operation is not in doubt. There are sufficient efforts to increase the number of surveillance aircraft that we have. There are some platforms which hitherto we were using for some other purposes. For example, there's a plan to induct the L-39 aircraft now. The L-39, we use them for basic flying training in Kano. But because of the urgent need to commit every platform that we need to ensure the success of this operation, there's sufficient effort on the part of the Air Force leadership to do that. And that's why this L-39 had to be committed into that operation. So everything that we need, everything that we have, it's what we are committing into that operation. Of course, like General Rabo said, you can't rule out the fact that there may be some deficiency here and there. Like the chief of the air staff will always tell you, there's no nation in the world that has everything that it needs. But what is important is you know what you have, you know what you need, establish what the gap is, and how do you bridge that gap to effectively employ what you have to be able to achieve your objective.
Well, Group Captain Famuyiwa, earlier we talked about the fact that, yes, Boko Haram elements, either they were strafed to death or they have now become wildly dispersed, and there will be some desperation amongst them to regroup. What do we know about the intensity of that desperation to regroup? And what level of cooperation are you getting from, again, the same question I posed to General about the civil population to ensure that when some of the clearly visible the elements of Boko Haram, are in a particular area, that they can immediately be identified, sorted out, and then brought to their heels?
I think what we see now in terms of suicide bombing on the part of the insurgents, it's an indication of the desperation of a dying sect. The Boko Haram insurgents know that this is their last days. And just like General Rabo said, we have won the war. It is winning the peace now that is the concern of every Nigerian. Yeah, when we get this information from the public, again, the authenticity of what you have may be in doubt. You need to be able to ascertain the source of the information and to make sure that these are accurate intelligence that is given to you. We are getting that. But again, when you say something that is quite obvious, how do you know when the information that you are given, it's correct, it's obvious? So, because if you are made based on the urgency of what you are given to respond without checking and cross-checking, the chances are that you may have a repeat of what happened in Iran, which we want to make sure that we never have such an unfortunate incident anymore.
Okay, Group Captain Famon, well, let's quickly, again, we've got some reactions coming in. We have a number of them. We'll quickly take them and see if you can respond to a few before we conclude our discussion.
Engineer Abdullahi has a tweet. In war, it is difficult to isolate enemies from innocents. The Air Force should acquire advanced technology to reduce casualties.
All right, and Ahmed Gambo Ibrahim tweets, the fight with the Boko Haram is like killing a tree from its branches. It's not possible without getting those that fund them.
Daniel Budaye tweets, I acknowledge the relentless efforts of our armed forces, but where do we stand between now and 2020 in the war against insurgency?
And Change to Progress, last part of this war is soft part of the battle. There is need to give counter-narrative of Boko Haram ideologies to the confused young ones.
And then Cecilia Okoroma tweets, IDP camps are breeding ground for recruiting bombers, thereby making it difficult to completely clear Boko Haram. NOA, that stands for the National Orientation Agency, rise up to educate. All right, well, those are the tweets that we can take in the meantime. Group Captain Ayodele Famuyiwa, your last comments on this before we take a break.
Yeah, let me talk about the current efforts to ensure that the Nigerian Air Force, someone talked about technology. Yeah, part of the effort that is currently being made by the Nigerian Air Force is to acquire better platforms that are able to effectively overcome some of the challenges we have. That already is achieving results. There are new helicopters that have been acquired, which we expect that very soon is going to be launched into that operation, and it will make a difference. Also, beyond that, there is sufficient effort on the part of the Air Force to develop some level of capacity for self-reliance.
Right.
These are some of the things that are ongoing to better reposition the Nigerian Air Force.
Group Captain Ayodele Famuyiwa, thank you very much for coming to share these thoughts with us.
Thank you.
All right, that's Good Morning Nigeria. We end the first part of our conversation. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking at development at the Senate with regards to the Controller General of Customs.
Money is sweet, but how sweet it is depends on a few variables like how ready you are to handle the many troubles and goodies money brings your way.
The whole of Enugu will know that so my son has arrived.
But most of all, the sweetness of money depends on if it brings you peace or not.
Not be the same Lagos where your sister Pikin there, where you there.
I'd like to know your name and have your phone number if you don't mind.
Oh, my name is Jumoke. My number is 08053.
Not you. Talking to Beautiful right here.
My Pikin Don Hammer. Another milestone episode in your rib-cracking comedy. Professor John Bull.
Be a bird for me. Fly to Malay with like a kilo, what you would call like 2.2 pounds of powder.
And showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
Okay, sir. You may now go in for your interview.
Thank you.
Ah, my shoe. And to think I just bought this very expensive foreign shoe 2 months ago.
So sorry about your shoes. This is why I advise my friends to always patronize made in Nigeria products. See this shoe. It's made in Nigeria and I've had it for 2 years and it's still as good as the day I bought it.
Made in Nigeria products are good quality, and stringent government regulations and certification now mean that goods made in Nigeria meet international standards. Make the patriotic choice today. Buy right. Buy Made in Nigeria. This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Now, we have up to 11 blocks or 12 in our schools today. And now we have good infrastructures and a facility where we can sit and learn.
For the free school uniform standards and for free education, and also giving us qualified teachers to teach us. So I'm here to say thank you, our governor.
If you watch around Emmanuel College, you'll find out that there are much classrooms, infrastructures, qualified teachers.
This is the new Imo State, providing free education to the next generation of Imo-lites. The Imo Rescue Mission.
All right, let's move on to another matter of urgent attention. Now, the Senate has called for the immediate resignation of the Controller General of Customs, Hamid Ali. The decision followed the Controller General's failure to honor Senate's invitation to appear before it to explain the rationale behind the introduction of retroactive payment of custom duties on vehicles. Now, after a heated debate at the Wednesday's plenary, the Senate also decided to send resolution on the call for Hamid Ali's resignation to the House of Representatives for concurrence.
Carrying out his constitutional responsibility.
Where did the Attorney General of the Federation derive his powers from to suggest to the Senate how to carry out our constitutional mandate?
The Senate should look at this issue very critically.
This is a serious breach of the Constitution.
The Senate hereby calls for his resignation from office.
All right, now those were excerpts from the discussions yesterday, or rather debate yesterday during the Senate session on the matter involving the Comptroller General of Customs. Now we have guests with us in the Abuja studios as well as at remote locations to further elaborate on this issue. We'd like to welcome once again to this issue. We had him sometime last week. Alhaji Ibrahim Modibo is a public affairs analyst with a mathematical bent in his analysis on this issue. Alhaji Ibrahim Modibo, pleasure to have you join us again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. And then we have joining us from our Lagos Network Center, Mazi Afam Osigwe, another familiar face of Good Boy Nigeria, is former Secretary General of the Nigerian Bar Association. Afam, pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you, Kingsley.
Okay. And,
all right.
Claire, we have another.
I think the whole situation is rather unfortunate and could have been better handled in a mature manner.
All right, thanks a lot. Kayode Ajulo, you heard the comments of Mazi Afam Osigwe. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is this. We have a Senate, of which is the Senate.
Because if you look at the stream, the networking of discussion in the Senate, things are now moving from the sublime to the ridiculous, where issues of national interest are placed behind and inconsequential that could lead to a propelling of the wheel of progress, of development, rather than getting itself to the pedestrian level of underdevelopment.
Alhaji Modibo, I'll leave the legal aspects, because, like I said, the matter is in court, but Kingsley, of course, will look at that. But let me even ask you.
Yes.
Let me even ask you, what is this in this uniform that the Controller General of Police
later on in the course of this conversation? To return to Mazi Afam Osigwe. Mazi Afam Osigwe, in a sense, I mean, this is a matter of public interest, as you have indicated, and some elements of it being sub judice. But let's see how we can scale around this. Look, upon the advisory that the Comptroller General, or rather some other party had gone to court with respect to how the Comptroller General should conduct himself, the advisory that was then forwarded by the Attorney General of the Federation, was it somewhat hasty for the Senate to have then proceeded with its own debates and ultimately the resolution calling for what would appear to be a final resolution, namely the Customs Comptroller General should resign? Was the Senate hasty?
Permit me quickly to make this point before answering your question, Kingsley. I think we keep getting this issue wrong or mixed up. Now, in international law, we say that when a nation descends into the marketplace, the law of the marketplace applies to it. I hate to hear this argument that Colonel Hamid Ali, retired as an army officer, he should be allowed to rest peacefully in that regard. If he knew he valued his being a retired military officer, he shouldn't have accepted appointment as Controller General of Customs. And by definition of officers, both in the Act and the regulations made pursuant to that, this Controller General of Customs is an officer in the Customs, whether he's a career civil servant or not, and he ought to wear uniform. Let us not belittle this issue. It's about institutional discipline. You cannot accept the benefit and refuse the responsibility. If you have chosen to be a customs officer, a CG of customs, to maintain the image and dignity of that institution, you should wear uniform. And let us not refer to countries where people wear suit, because we don't know what the position of the law in those countries is. And we should compare apples with apples, not with oranges. Now, back to your questions. I can only answer you by saying I hope we are not setting a very dangerous precedent. I hope that tomorrow somebody will not go to court and challenge either the presentation of the budget, the procedure for a debate or presentation, or the components of the budget, and then will argue or have the Attorney General also right, saying, since somebody has gone to court to challenge this budget proposal, the National Assembly should not discuss it. It's obvious, without my talking about the case, that whatever that this case may be, I'm only conjecturing, may have been instituted to prevent him appearing. It would have been, but the substance of that argument remains important, pertinent in the affairs of this nation, because it touches on the competence of the customs to collect duties. How do vehicles get into this country without duties being paid? How well is the custom doing it? Is it true that customs officers are complicit in acts of corruption, in allowing vehicles to be smuggled in, or vehicles being underdeclared and improper duties being paid? There are a whole lot of issues involved. Issues of corruption may also be involved, in which case one may also argue that the National Assembly have power to take interest in it. But to the extent that the National Assembly set out not to unravel corruption in the customs services, but to look at a policy by the customs that they are going to, after a certain date, embark on a check, stopping all vehicles to demand for payment of their custom duties. To that extent, one can argue that they cannot do that. But let us not personalize it about his performance. It's not about his performance. It's about the customs as an institution and whether it is doing the right thing. And people should not act as if they are above the law. And I conclude by reminding us again that if the CG knew that he valued the last uniform he wore as a customs officer, he should not have accepted his appointment. Having accepted it, he should wear the uniform. And it's not such a big deal. He should be humble enough as a public servant to do things that will not continue to generate this unnecessary debate and hate.
All right, Mazi Afam, thank you very much there. I'm sure, Claire, going forward, there will also be issues as to, the proper person to have instituted the action, whether this is a busybody action, what is the standing, the local standard of the person who has instituted this action that led to the CG indicating that on the basis of the matter being solved with this, he would not appear before the Senate. At the end, of course, the action now taken by the Senate. Ajulo, we saw him a moment ago back to us, back on, via Skype. Mr. Kade Ajulo, sorry we lost you while you were in full flight earlier. Maybe you want to recap what you said and then make your own comments on some of the issues already touched on by Mazi Afam as well as Alhaji Ibrahim Modibo with us here at the Abuja studios.
Yes. Oh dear, I think we've lost him again, Kingsley.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to Mr. Jula. We're sorry about these, of course, interruptions. But again, I'm not sure you listened to Barrister Afam, speak. My question is, in a situation where a case is in a court process, the process in the court is still on.
You listen to the views expressed by Mazi Afam from our Lagos Network studios. You were talking about the fact that the Comptroller General of Customs should be allowed to, enjoy his retirement as a military officer. And then Mazi is saying, look, why accept this current assignment? And by the way, before you make your comment, we know what you said earlier about the Senate. And we need to indicate to our viewers that we had invited the Senate to be part of this discussion, but they are not here with us to carry on with the conversation. Alhaji Ibrahim.
Thank you very much. While I respect the views of the learned gentleman in the Lagos axis, I want to state that in trying to talk on issues as fundamental as this, there are some issues of national importance that should be put into consideration. One, is there any law, either in terms of constitution or statutes or in terms of even conventions, where it has been stated that a customs control general must wear a uniform? Just give me one law
No, well, let's not back and forth. I would have given.
If he's bringing legal, he's bringing legal terms.
I would have said, look,
yes.
let Mazi Afam repeat what he said.
But yes.
In summary, this is what he says.
Yes.
That I know that Mazi is listening. If you are Comptroller General of Customs, you are deemed to be an officer of the Customs. And if you're an officer of the Customs, there are certain expectations, including you appearing in the outfit recommended or prescribed for officers of the entity.
You see, this is democracy. And in democracy, the light is opened. For Hamid Ali, he was, or he is a retired military officer. They earned his ranks, all the pips, he got them on merit. How does he justify the pips the Controller General of Customs got on his shoulders? The man is frank to a fault. This is a man whose performance profile goes beyond the confines of all these mere rhetorics that we see on television and in the Senate. The issue at stake is, fundamental as it is, what is his performance profile? How does the uniform impede his own performance as a Controller General of Customs? He was talking of aligning cars and all that. Those that have been aligned cars, is it Hamid Ali in Mufti that is at the border? Is it not custom officers that have been wearing uniform? Now, the issue is, as I've told you, there is the need for us to remove the chaff from the graves. Let us not hoodwink the public by trying to bring issues that are mundane and also degenerating into iniquities and this thing. We should look at issues dispassionately. Now the fundamental issue is the issue of performance. Has Hamid Ali performed? Since he's coming into office, he has turned around the face and character of governance in the Customs and Excise Department. Whether we like it or not, this man has brought sanity. He has reorganized the place, he has set the place into standard, and I'm sure by now he's ready to go. Bearing this in mind, the fundamental issue I still repeat is, does the Senate have anything to do with corruption against this man? Now, look at the counter that is coming from the segment of society. These issues, as they are, the Magu issue, they're so sentimental, so emotional, and equally, the issue of Hamid Ali, they're so emotional, and it has brought to the fore some of the vices and follies of the Senate. Why you see individuals based on their own personal issues have been taking up, raising issues of national importance to pedestrian issues of discussion.
You say, Alhaji Ibrahim, let's discuss politics now, the political angle to all of this.
Yes.
The Senate has the APC as the majority. And of course, in recent times, we have also seen one or two senators decamp from the PDP, the opposition party, to the APC. Couldn't there be some political resolution of this matter? Or why does it appear that the ruling party is not in control of its members? These are issues that could be sorted out at the caucus level without the kind of uproar we are seeing on the floor of the Senate. Is this worrisome to you?
Yes. You see, I've been in this politics for a long time, and fortunately, I've been looking forward to this question. You see, as the National Director of Publicity for APP for about 10 years, I have grown into a system to know about party discipline. Now, since this present government came in, there has been this issue of lack of party discipline and cohesion. I think the leadership of the APC has not been able to pick up the gauntlet to stamp its authority on the sand of times. That is why today, right from day one, when President Muhammadu Buhari came on board, this Senate had a mindset to institutionalize in discipline, to show a kind of disregard and disrespect to the president. Right from the time of the choice of the Senate president, they have shown the president there is inconsequential. They don't have regard for him. Okay. And therefore, as a leader of the party, my heart bleeds for this country. The president will nominate people and it will reject it. And all the people that are bringing glory to this government, they are disregarding them. They are just letting them black.
Let's pause you for a while. Let's get the final comments from Mazi Afam. Mazi Afam, the Senate has said, sent the resolution of the call, for Hamid Ali's resignation to the House of Representatives. Now, if that says true, what next?
Let me just quickly say this, to permit me to just address an issue Alhaji Modibo raised before I answer your question. I think Alhaji Modibo has made a point which we shouldn't lose sight of. If he said that Hamid Ali refuses to wear the uniform of a CG of course because he has not earned the ranks, then he's admitting that he's not entitled to be so appointed. It also brings to the fore the propriety of appointing people from outside the service to head the service. Because I'm sure if it was a DCG or an ACG that was appointed, we wouldn't have this issue. We should also look at making sure that men who have spent their whole lives working in the customs get to the top positions in that organization. Now, I will not be able to comment on what happens, but if I were in the Senate, like I noted earlier, I would not have called for the resignation of the CG of Customs, but I would rather have made resolutions condemning his actions as that not befitting of a person who wears the rank of a Controller General of Customs. But then this is Nigeria. This may blow over in the next few days and we can talk about other things. But a man or a person who occupies that office ought to show better respect for organs of government, show better respect in the conduct and the affairs of the organization he heads. And I think this is rather unfortunate, and I think the earlier the government intervenes, the executive intervenes to have this issue resolved, the better for all of us, because the legislature is being ridiculed whether you like it or not. I also understand the SGF has also refused to appear before the Senate. And when the problem starts between the executive and the legislature will be accused of frustrating government policies, of not cooperating with the executive to move Nigeria forward and to resuscitate the economy. These are the little things that set off crises that lead to such situation. The government should be responsible enough to know that it requires the cooperation of the legislature and should not allow its appointees to rub the nose of the legislature in the mud, as it were. So I think both the party and the government should take urgent actions to nip this in the bud before it turns into a monstrous situation.
All right, Mazi Afam, thanks. Let's get reactions from our viewers now who have sent in their tweets using the Twitter handle at NTA GMN. Festus Akimboyewa, customs boss wearing the uniform is not a priority for Nigerians. The Senate should direct effort towards passing the appropriation bill.
And this Daily Jack Solomon tweets, the custom boss should put aside his kakistocracy ego. Kakistocracy ego. He must respect the Senate House of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Sonny Michael Omakoji tweets, if Ali is patriotic enough, why hesitating to wear the Nigerian customs uniform as demanded by the Senate?
And Ahmed Gambo Ibrahim tweets, the senators are seeing themselves too powerful. We can't get things right by that. How clean are they to call others to be clean? I beg.
And then Abdullahi Onishabi tweets, Comptroller General of Customs is doing a very good job, but he should respect the law. He should wear the customs uniform. It is an unnecessary friction.
And Eze Chukube tweets, the project should be paramount as contained in the national anthem and pledge. Loyalty and humility, attributes of good leaders.
Okay, Andrew Ogboro tweets, Hamid Ali was invited to the Senate as Comptroller General of Customs. Hence, he should wear the uniform to depict his office. Well, those are the comments that we are taking from our viewers at this time, and that also brings to an end our discussion of the issue. Of course, we are waiting for further developments, and if necessary, we'll return to the subject matter. I would like to thank our guests who joined us from our Lagos Network studios, Mazi Afam Osigwe, former Secretary General of the Nigerian Bar Association. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. We also would like to thank, this time around in absentia, by Kayode Ajulo, a legal practitioner who joined us via Skype from some remote location in Ondo. Unfortunately, the signals were quite weak. We appreciate your effort and always also appreciate your contributions whenever you're with us on the program. And lastly, Alhaji Ibrahim Modibo, a public affairs analyst with little mathematical input in his discussion this morning. Otherwise, we're nevertheless appreciative of your being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so that does it for our double take on the discussion segment today. We move on now to the complementary segment, Claire.
Yes, of course. We'll quickly join Victor Azo on our sports text for sports.